When I'm not in the mood for any movie in particular, I like to play Tubi Roulette. It's a very simple game where you go into Tubi. This video is not sponsored, by the way. Type in a random buzzword and pick from the top results to find the movie of the night. Tubi Roulette has very mixed results. Usually it leads to a movie that you would likely have never seen. Every once in a while you'll find a great film that you'd never heard of before, but most of the time you'll find that you just signed up to watch a 90-minute jumbling of terrible acting and derivative plot lines that will have you longing for the sweet relief of death. It's a fun game, and we're gonna play it today. Today's buzzword is dolls, and typing that in pulls up two movies in the first few results that are actually titled dolls, so it's meant to be. I've actually seen the first result. 1987's Dolls is a fantastic film. It feels a lot like a Puppet Master movie, so I was planning to already cover that at some point in the future. So let's move on and watch the next one, which is Dolls 2019. Is it gonna be a hidden gem or a special kind of torture? Well, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's find out. Dolls opens with a money shot of a shaky foot as this dude who looks like a much larger version of Billy Joel wakes up to hear knocking on his front door. When he opens it, there's no one out there, but there is a large open box in the middle of his front lawn. His front door closes behind him and he rushes back inside and calls out whoever snuck into his place. After a bit of searching, he sees three small, yet terrifying and lopsided dolls standing in his front room. He seems to recognize them and he runs away in fear as the lights flash and images of memories start to play in his head. He skips a few rational steps and immediately reaches for a razor blade and ends it all in a literal bloodbath. Cause he's in a bath. And there's blood. We then cut to our main character, Robert, and learn right away that he's having some issues with his ex-wife. He's lost his house, so now he's got to stay in the mansion that his deceased mother used to live in, so it's basically just his house now, right? Like, his mom died, he's the kid. He gets the house? I think that's how it works. Anyway, I guess she just recently died because he starts to take all of the photos off of the wall and he stores them in a little room with a tiny little door on the top story of the house. After some light organizing, he immediately hits the booze.
Cheers, Emma.
But as he wanders from the kitchen, he sees a strange little doll man in the hallway, and its eyes light up when he's not looking, and it's super scary. But not for Robert, because he didn't see it. It's just scary for us. It's a little treat. The doll has a little embroidered sweater on, so we learned that it's called Tommy, but I immediately got distracted when Robert was putting the doll away because I saw this painting on the wall and just look at it. It's kind of beautiful, right? Like, it's mesmerizing. I don't know what feeling is overwhelming me, but just, this is art. This is art. When he puts Tommy away, we see the other two dolls from the intro, and Robert comes to some genius reasoning for how the doll got placed in the middle of the hallway.
Raccoons.
Yeah, so his rationale goes straight to raccoons who got into his house and played with the doll without him noticing. Those dang raccoons. Robert heads back downstairs and cue the royalty-free jazz because it's time for a cleaning montage, subtexted by hints at alcohol abuse. So, now that his mom's house is all squeaky clean, a Robert who has to be totally smashed just sits down to do some artwork. We get some hints that he's an author and an illustrator for children's books, but if his alcoholism is a hint, then he's gotta be in a bit of a slump. But we all know that he'll get out of it, right? Because authors are the coolest, right? Right, guys? Like, that's right. I'm an author. That means, according to this video's logic that maybe I wrote, that someone wrote, Authors are cool. I'm cool. Please go read my book. After a few hours, Robert gets a knock on the door, and his daughter Sammy joins the dead grandma house slumber party.
You're not supposed to be here.
Neither are you.
So, Sammy is supposed to be living with her mother, but Sammy hates her mom, so she wants to live with her dad in grandma's house instead. Also, we learned Sammy's age.
I'm 17, not 7.
And just keep that in mind. She's 17. We know it. The movie knows it. So it would be foolish to introduce a 20-something love interest later on, right? That sure would be silly. Robert is too drunk to have much authority in this situation. He refuses to call the ex-wife, and he can't drive Sammy home, so I guess she's staying. He stumbles up to bed, leaving Sammy downstairs to explore, and she sees the new book that her dad was starting.
Attic dolls.
In the night, Robert wakes up hearing footsteps from the attic, and then he sees Tommy standing and doing a weird growl thing. But when he puts on his glasses, the doll is gone, so probably the raccoons again. Right, Robert? Those pesky buggers sneaking in playing with dolls all the time. Freaking trash pandas. The next day, Robert gets a bit mad because Sammy dumped all of his booze down the drain. Then, the ex-wife, whose name is Lynn, comes over to get Sammy, but...
Sammy, I know this is hard on you, but this is not the right environment for you.
Yeah, no, it's way better for me to be around a cheating slut.
Hey.
So, Sammy's gonna be staying with Robert for a while. Before Lynn leaves, she hints that the grandma's death was unusual.
The way your mother died was so...
It was an accident, okay?
But I'm sure we'll learn more about this as the movie goes on.
Can I come in, monkey?
Robert and Sammy have a quick heart-to-heart, and Robert agrees to try to stop drinking while at the same time recruiting Sammy to help him color some of his artwork. To show her what the art needs to look like, he takes her up to the attic to meet the dolls.
That big guy there, he's Matthew. And the little lady is Lucia. And that's my friend Tommy.
Okay.
He gets a phone call, so he has to leave Sammy alone in the attic while he talks. And while she's taking a close look at the dolls, nothing happens. Robert has to head to a publisher's meeting for a few hours, but before that,
What?
this lady named Margaret comes over looking for the grandma. Her brother recently died, and with a couple of context clues, we learn that her brother was the guy who died in the intro of this movie. Robert still has to leave, but
Why don't you stay a while? I'm not doing anything. You can hang out for a bit. We're clearing out some of my grandma's old things. You can see if there's anything you want to keep.
Robert really is a bad dad, isn't he? Like, some lady comes over, some complete stranger, and he just lets her stay in his house with his daughter? It's bad parenting, but it's a good chance for exposition. To summarize the scene, because the exposition it's kind of just a long, boring talking scene. Sammy's grandma was a mental health specialist, and she worked with Margaret's brother, who was apparently possessed by actual demons. She did some kind of hinted at procedure and seemingly cured the brother completely. Naturally, Sammy brings up the dolls because in a conversation with a stranger, you're gonna talk about the dolls you found in your attic. But the moment she brings up the dolls, Margaret gets all scared while Sammy goes to get them, only when she gets to the attic, all of the dolls are missing, and then when she goes downstairs, Margaret is also missing.
Margaret?
Sammy just shrugs off the disappearances because she wants to sunbathe. While changing, she hears something moving around and notices the tiny door in the tiny room is open, but she just decides that it's nothing, and she goes outside for some sun. Can you imagine a stranger just suddenly vanishes in your house, and a bit later, you hear movement and you notice a few things are moved around, and then concluding that it's all nothing and that it's not related at all? There's no way! Immediately, I'm thinking that the stranger is hiding somewhere in my house and probably wants to kill me, so I barricade myself in a room, I find a weapon while calling the cops and everyone that I know to come and save me, but not Sammy. She's way too brave or just way too dumb for that, and she really wants some sun. While sunbathing, Sammy meets her grandma's sexy gardener boy, and this scene is mic'd super poorly, so most of what we hear is just mumbles as they chat. The sexy guy is named James, and Sammy tells him that she's 21, so they both roll a joint and smoke while talking about art. James says that he'd like to see what Sammy's dad is working on, so the two head inside.
Attic dolls. That is so cool.
But while he's going through the pages, Sammy realizes that there's a lot more finished in the book than she saw before. So either her dad drew and wrote a bunch when she just wasn't looking, or we've got some artist demon dolls, I guess. Like, are you more worried about AI taking over the jobs of artists, or demon dolls? It's a debate for the ages, right in the making. Anyway, here's the story that they've got so far. The attic dolls live up the stairs. You'll hear them laugh and run up there. But when you go upstairs to play, they'll be standing still each day. If you turn your back on them, you'll hear them run around again. And if you see them move, that's when they'll come for you. Before they can do any literary analysis, Robert comes home and he's not too happy.
Must be a big fan of kids, too, seeing as how you're hanging around with 17-year-olds.
Dad.
Sammy storms off all mad, but James will be sticking around for a few more days, so that's good.
And James, she's not an adult.
Alright, so James is now fully aware that Sammy's 17, so no more underage shenanigans, right? Like, we're not gonna get any more of that, right? Right?
Don't be mad at me, monkey.
While talking, Sammy mentions that the dolls were missing, so they both end up heading back up to the attic, but they find all three of the dolls right where they were before. Robert sits down for some coloring, but he vibes out a little bit too much and he starts seeing flashes of the dolls and then one of his mother with a knife sticking out of her head, so two things here. One, his mother died from a knife in the head, and that's how that happened. I know it's gotta be clearly related to the dolls, but at least now we have a little bit of information about the death. And the second thing is, I guess Robert is starting to become possessed by the dolls, maybe? But they've given him some creative inspiration, so I guess they can't be all that bad. Robert stops drawing as he hears Sammy call his name from a dark room. He sees someone moving when his mother suddenly stumbles out and falls into his arms. But when he looks again, the mother has turned into Sammy that also has a knife in her head, and from the doorway we see two glowing eyes. He wakes up a minute later because this was just a dream. A scary dream. I'm not gonna lie, this part actually kind of got me a little bit. It made me jump. I guess it was pretty well done. Like, it's nothing special, but it was kind of creepy. It was a little scary. It got me like 2 inches out of the seat. At the same time, we see that Sammy is still awake and she is talking with James. They're on a video call and they're flirting it up, and that's not okay. I'm suddenly finding myself cheering for the dolls to come out on top of this movie. I'm just saying, like, I'd much rather have a bunch of demon dolls than James, who likes kids. In the middle of their call, the power suddenly goes out and Sammy starts to hear little footsteps coming from the hallway. She runs up to her dad's room, but he's not there, and then...
Wait, calm down, what's wrong?
There's so many, like, false nothing jump scares in this movie, and I'm happy to say this one did not get me. Unlike that other one, this one, I stayed firmly in my seat. Sammy is still convinced that she heard someone in their house, so they go together to fix the breaker and then search the rooms, but they don't find anyone. They go through the crawl spaces and find no one. But Robert does notice the pictures that he put in there before are all mysteriously missing, and Sammy insists that she didn't move them, so he just brushes it aside and decides to go to bed.
If someone broke into our house and stole the pictures, great, good luck to them. I hope they enjoy them.
I can't judge Robert's thought process very much here because I think he's possessed by the dolls. But if he's not possessed by the dolls and he thinks that a stranger just broke into his house and stole a bunch of photos, I'd be even more worried. Like, if someone's breaking into your house and they're not going for the valuables, then they're probably like trying to steal those pictures to find evidence to put up on their serial killer wall. They're coming after you. If they're not going for your valuable things, they're going for your life, man. Once again, I'm barricaded in the room. I've got a weapon. I'm calling the cops. I'm crawled up in the fetal position, just crying and screaming and hoping that I'm not just about to die. And then it ends up probably just being raccoons. It probably just ends up being raccoons again. The next day, Robert has another meeting or something, so he leaves Sammy alone in the house again. She goes through her dad's drawings again, but stops when she notices Tommy standing next to her.
What happened to your face?
She puts him in the Harry Potter room under the stairs and heads to the front door when...
You have to get rid of those things.
What things?
The dolls. They're evil.
Margaret is back, and that means that it's time for some more exposition. But this time we actually get the whole story, so I guess that's good. It turns out that Margaret's brother was possessed by 3 demons, but no medications or acts from priests were able to get rid of them. Then, Sammy's grandmother showed up one day and had this idea to try and get the demons to change hosts. She brought the dolls with her, and each of the dolls has some kind of history that leads them to like missionaries in Latin America or something, but it's really not relevant. Her idea works perfectly, and they end up inhabiting the dolls, and she decides to take them home. But, of course, that was a bad idea because they're demons. So they killed the grandma, and then they snuck out and they killed Margaret's brother, and now we're all caught up.
You have to burn them. And then you have to get as far away from this place as possible. Do you understand?
No, I don't think I do.
Well, then there's nothing I can do to help you.
Margaret leaves, but Sammy follows her out because she's scared. And then our favorite guy, James, pops up because he was painting the deck. Sammy asks him to come inside so that she won't be scared, and he happily follows her in because he's a stand-up guy. Sammy shows James the doll under the stairs, and he's all brave for her, and then they start smooching. A bit later, Sammy's mom comes over to check on her, and she says that she's going on some kind of a business trip for a couple of days, and it's a really boring scene, so skip.
Wait a second. What are these?
So James has finished up work for the day, and he wants to take Sammy for a date to the fair. He really knows what those kids like, doesn't he? He waits downstairs while Sammy gets ready, and he starts to read Robert's book again. Only this time there's a little bit more, and the final drawing shows James holding the book with Matthew the doll standing behind him with a knife. And then, when he turns around in real life, the doll is there, and we cut away while hearing knife slicing sounds. Sammy heads downstairs and she finds James dying, but she hears someone call her name, and then... Sammy hides in the bathroom as the doorknob jiggles, but when it opens, Robert is back and he starts asking what happened.
It was the dolls.
What are you talking about, baby? Did he attack you?
No,
So, Robert thinks that his daughter snapped and killed the pervert boy, but he doesn't want his kid to go to prison, so he takes action. He wraps up James's body and stuffs it into the trunk of his car, and then he and Sammy head out to go and bury it. But a few minutes later, the ex-wife shows up and says that she missed her flight, so she's decided to just stay at the mansion for the night because it's closer to the airport, and she's got a new flight in the morning that she wants to catch. She's all stressed out, so she decides to help herself to a candlelit bath, and it doesn't look relaxing at all because just look at this tub. It looks like it was made in a day when humans only grew to like 4'3" due to just a lack of nutrition. Like, she's just stuffed herself inside, and her feet and her knees and like most of her upper body are all just out of the tub. It looks cold and uncomfortable, and she's trying her best to act relaxed. But I don't buy it. When she closes her eyes, the bathroom door slowly opens and the dolls make an appearance. Lynn assumes Robert is just playing a prank on her, so she pulls on a robe and goes to search for him, but the dolls reveal themselves right away. She runs upstairs but falls into an elaborate doll trap.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
The dolls drag her body away, and a little bit later, Robert and Sammy come back home. Robert burns his clothes in the backyard, but he doesn't burn his undershirt that he's wearing, which also has a bunch of blood on it, so he did a bad job of hiding evidence. I'm just saying. When he gets back inside, Sammy brings up the dolls again.
Please burn them.
And what?
The attic dolls. I need you to burn them for me, Daddy.
He walks off and he comes back with the dolls in hand. The fire in the back is still burning, so he wraps the dolls into a garbage bag and he drops them all into the flames, and the music is all triumphant and it looks like the dad and the daughter are going to be okay. They share a quick embrace before deciding to call it a night.
Okay, monkey. To bed. Get some rest.
Then, Robert goes to his manuscript and he rereads his work. And for the 5th time in this movie, we hear a creepy voiceover of the entire story as Robert flips through the drawings. But this time, there's a picture of the impaled ex-wife, and at this same time, Sammy sees one of the crawlspace doors is open. Robert hears Sammy's voice and he opens a closet only to have the ex-wife's body fall onto him. He drops the knife that he was holding, but frantically tries to pick it back up as the dolls appear and they start moving closer and closer to him. But when he gets the knife again, he stabs forward and ends up stabbing Sammy in the stomach. We cut to sometime later with Robert now in a mental hospital. Margaret shows up to visit and she pulls out the dolls to try and help.
You gave them away!
That's where this movie ends. As far as Tubi Roulette goes, Dolls definitely leans more in the direction of pure torture. The cover showed 5 dolls. I want to point this out. The cover shows 5 dolls. The movie only ever shows 3. And they kind of just showed up in the middle of the hallway, placed by raccoons. I don't know. It was pretty uninspired. It was pretty uncreative with how they used the dolls. The few times that they did pop up behind characters, like when they were reading the book, or even just a couple times I noticed them in random scenes when they weren't acknowledged. Like, I liked that kind of stuff. I just wish there was more of that. That stuff was a fun and creative way to use these props, but the kind of scenes where that happened were very few and far between. Far and few between? What's the phrase? The other thing that they leaned heavily on was that book that they wrote. And don't get me wrong, I liked some of what they did. The pictures with the dolls that led to the doll reveal in the real world was a pretty fun thing to do. But every time they showed characters reading the book, they read the whole thing. They'd never just skip to the new paragraphs that were written. We always had to start at the very beginning over and over, and it got annoying. I did like the ending. The reveal of Robert killing his daughter was pretty okay. The death of his ex-wife was fun. The asylum stuff at the very end was kind of stupid, but it was short, so whatever. I liked the few scenes before the asylum stuff, is what I'm trying to say. So, all in all, I think Dolls gets itself a 3 out of 10. It's not the worst thing that I've ever watched, but it's definitely not good enough to be considered even average as far as films go. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed Tubi Roulette. This is always what happens. We endured a little bit of torture together. It brings us all closer together. It's a bonding experience watching Dolls 2019 together, man. Freaking. Oh, it's over. It's over. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and a huge thanks to my YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for the extra support. I love you, and Let me know what you guys thought of Tubi Roulette. Do you guys want to see some more of this? Maybe we could do some like buzzword polls in the future. That could be kind of fun. Or just let me know if you've got a fun buzzword I should try to look up. Anyway, this video's done. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.